racing immediately. And a champion becomes a legend. McCabe Diva wins it again.
Yes, yes, yes! Wins the Everest. Glenn Boss wins another big one.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Who's the Boss? Adam Peacock alongside Glenn Boss, refreshed after his golf trip. How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm great. Had a great week in Queenstown. Mate, have you ever been there to Queenstown?
Yeah.
And to Jack's point, if you haven't, it's a bucket list place.
How'd you go? Did you get Fatty's cash?
No, Fatty was a bit good for me over the 4 days, so we had a 4-day tournament, and I think Fatty might have got me by 1 or 2 shots.
Okay.
But I've got a good handicap.
Yeah, but you softened him up because he retired from media commitments.
Yeah,
Paul
well,
Borton,
I said
so
to him,
there you go. He gave it away.
I said, "What are you doing, mate? You're getting too old, getting too slow." About time he gave it up. He went, "I might do it."
His typical head wobble. Now, Bossy, before we get rolling and get into our guest and find out who it is, have a look back at last week and what's coming up as well. I noticed that that's not 3 Melbourne Cups in front of us right there. What's happened?
Well, what happened to 3 Melbourne Cups? They're 20 years old now, so I had to go and get them refurbed. And plus, you know the story where I lost them in the back of a taxi, and where the Steve, who the original maker, he's going to make a slot for them in the base where I can put an air tracker.
So if you lose them in a cab again, you know exactly where they are.
Yeah, they will never be lost again.
Yeah,
but I wanted to get them refurbed anyway because they're a bit banged up.
Yeah.
And all the beers and Zambucas and...
Zambuca?
Oh, mate, whatever you want, you can drink out of them. Oh. So they're a little bit, how you going? So they need a bit of TLC.
I'm surprised that didn't burn the gold away, the Zambuca.
Oh, no.
Flame it up as well.
It's not in there long enough.
No, fair enough. Good point. But Golden Slipper, nice little replay. Great race for 2-year-olds at the start of the year.
I've won 2 of those, luckily enough. So
wasn't luck, Bossy. Come on.
Well, they were both good rides, I must say.
My late great father will attest to the one on Flying Spur as being one of the greatest moments of his life. And yes, well done on that one.
I think I single-handedly saved Arrowfield with
what, the whole stud?
No, well they were going a bit dusty at the time, and all of a sudden Flying Spur come along, and that projected them in a new direction. And then I rode one for Gay Sebring later on.
Well, not to degrade in any way the Golden Slipper. It's fantastic to have it here, and thank you for the ATC for having it here today as we record another episode and look ahead to some great racing. But quickly, before we do that, we look back and Bossy, you are the oracle. I don't know how you found Overpass last week and tipped it to our listeners and viewers, but you did over there. It's finally won a race over in Perth.
Well, you know, Adam, hours and hours of going over form, and I can find the long shots, you know. I can find the things, the hidden ones. And Overpass, he wasn't obvious. So,
he'd only gone 3 for 3 in WA. And he's gone and won by 3 lengths. He turns into Black Caviar when he goes to Perth.
What a great horse. He must love the water over there, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
And Bjorn Baker, it was so good. Like he's a really good horse, and he's been underrated his whole career. He's flying below some really good sprinters. So it's his time to shine in the sunlight now. So well done to all the crew. Yeah,
4 for 4 in Group 1s over in Perth. It's a pretty handy record for Overpass. And we'll get to Bossy's best later in the program. We've got Hong Kong, and you've ridden in Hong Kong, the International Day. We've got Ballarat Cup, I think. And you want to point out some country meets as well. I don't reckon there's a track in Australia you haven't ridden at.
Very few. Actually, you wouldn't believe, I went out to Roma a couple of weeks ago to do a speaking job at, and it's basically only one country track that I hadn't ridden at. I've ridden all around there, but not Roma, and what a good time that was.
Now, before we get rolling, I've got to mention our sponsors, especially this time of year. Very, very important what I'm about to tell you here. It's Who's the Boss is brought to you by AirTouch. You can see it up there on the screen, bottom left, behind Bossy's fabulously looking mug right there. Was it taken yesterday?
Yeah.
That photo?
Yeah. I started riding when I was 2.
So AirTouch is the ultimate smart air conditioning controller for your home or business. With AirTouch, you can control the temperature in any room right from your smartphone. I could literally sit here with the AirTouch and go, righto, my house 30 k's away. I want it to be 23 degrees for when I walk through the door, which is very handy for summer, isn't it, Bossy? And you found that recently when you're up there on the sweaty Gold Coast.
Yeah, yesterday we were playing golf, and it's 100% humidity on the Gold Coast at the moment.
Oh,
and
good
the
fun.
temperature is 30 degrees, 100% humidity. So it's brutal. So you get home and you just walk into the house and it's absolutely perfect. So, and I do that when I leave the golf course. So I'm home in 20 minutes. bang, walk into the house, it's perfect.
So when you're home from work or you're out with the kids or whatever, you want to walk into a beautifully air-conditioned house. It's got energy-saving features as well. AirTouch is your thing. It has you covered. Discover smarter climate control today. Visit airtouch.net.au. Stay cool, stay connected with AirTouch. And don't forget, you can catch us everywhere on socials here at Who's the Boss. Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, YouTube at Who's the Boss Pod, all one word. Check us out, and anywhere you get your podcast from around the place. Bossy, this week's guest is another rugby union great. It's a good time to talk about rugby at the moment.
One of the best. So he'd have some interesting stories. But he played through that era when rugby union was like so high in everyone's thought processes, and everyone knew everyone who played in that team. So I guarantee he's got some great stories to tell.
Well, let's get into it right here. Wallaby great Matt Burke is our special guest on Who's the Boss. 81 caps for the Wallabies, a World Cup chucked in, Australian Rugby Union legend Matthew Burke is the guest. Burkey, how are you, mate?
G'day, Adam. I'm well. Bossy, hello, sir.
I'm not, Bossy, just Bossy. There's no sirs here.
Sorry. Sometimes you've got to bow down to people, like people who've won 3 Melbourne Cups, you've got to bow down to. And I was so looking forward to mate, where are the cups? Where are they?
You probably feel slightly ripped off, don't you?
Just a little bit ripped off. I mean, you normally got to have the gloves on, don't you, when you're doing those ones? But when it's your own, it's play on.
Play on.
World Cup, Bledisloe Cups, they've been same thing.
Bashed up.
There's a little lip on the Bledisloe Cup now, just to be able to get that nice little sort of mouth on. But I was looking forward to having a sip out of the cup.
Yeah, well,
next time
you have to come back for a second one. Usually they're here, but they're getting refurbed at the moment, mate. So I'm really sorry. Yeah, so I lost the damn things.
Was it your fault?
No. I was travelling and I had a heap of gear. They were in the boot of the car, and when I was getting to an event, I was speaking. I rang the young girl and said, Jess, I said, can you come and help me get my stuff out? Because I'm supposed to be on stage right now. It's a bit of a panic. She gets my gear out of the back. And they're in one of those hard cases, And I get out of the taxi and paid and whatnot. And I said, Jess, where's my cups? And she said, what do you mean? I went, and I swear to God, I nearly fainted and vomited at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but
and that's normally 5 a.m. in the morning for Bossy, leaving the clubs. But no, so I've got to get them refurbed because they're 20 years old. They've been drunk, that much piss has been drunk out of them over the years, and they're going to put a spot where I can put air tags in them, so they'll never happen again.
Superb. Do you know the great thing about having trophies is, you win, but you got to give the big ones back. So for us, for the World Cup, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I'm
go with this story
already,
early.
Right?
This is a good one.
So there's 2 stories. So the first one was when we're coming back, and we heard the stories from 1991 that Dan Crowley ran around the whole plane. So QF2 walked around the whole plane, filled it with sponsors product, and gave everyone a sip out of it. And so they did the same thing. And Crowes was there in 99 as well when we won in Cardiff. And the cup went down and went through the whole plane again. And we sat down and we were well on our way. Like we hadn't slept and blokes were on the drink. And I sort of looked around and I said, right, we're going to be landing soon. I said, Ealsy's here, but there's no one else who's around. So the senior player, I think I'm the most senior player next afterwards. So I thought, right, I better get on the coffees. I better just start sort of sobering up a bit because all the media's going to be there and what have you. A few of the boys came home, I think it was a day late. And I thought, I wonder where the cup is. And I sort of looked around and I couldn't find the cup. And then Bernie Larkham, it was Bernie Larkham, Joe Roff, and Ben Tune, and they were the 3 blokes to get on the gas. They were always last in, first out, last in. And I thought, where is he? And in between that business class to economy, that little area where they prepare the meals and that kind of stuff, there's Bernie standing face towards the door. And I went, what's going on here? And he had his belt out, and he had the notch of his belt, because it was called Bill, right? Back in the day, it was called the William Webber's Cup. And it was old Gordon Bray, bring back Bill, bring back Bill. And so there he was with the notch going, B.
The engraver.
Oh, no. And I went, Bernie, I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just saying g'day to Bill. I went, mate, you can't. Pulled it off him. I went, mate. And it was like, sort of like one of those ones, and try and rub it out. It wasn't bad enough, but it was one of those ones where you think, mate, this could be like a really tough situation to explain. We then get back to Sydney, and we played golf with some sponsors, and we played up at Monash. And there's a hole where you sort of finish and you walk to the next. The next one's a par 3, and they had it sat in the par 3. I think it was a 17th at Monash. And between writing the scores with my group and them walking forward, these guys are standing there with the cup, sort of like this, the cup's there, and there's this big Tongan security guard just standing there, got the glasses on, he's all in black, it's stinking hot. And this guy walked up to it and went oh, this is going to be great. And he looked across at the security guard and he just went, no. And I went, and I saw it and I went, what do you mean no, mate? I said, this is mine. So I grabbed it and I threw it at him and he caught it. And I went, mate, get it above your head. So there he's like doing this one, going, yes, doing this one. And you just see the security guard like put the gloves on and have to clean it again. You know what I mean? Like
keep it fresh.
It's so they get trashed. They get trashed. The public thinks it's this pristine little thing, but they get absolutely.
I thought you were going to say when you chucked it at him, you held it up, and this Tongan security car came over like.
Whack
him up, ribs, Trevor Gilmeister style or something like that.
17th on Monash. Laid out.
There's a fatality at the golf course today. No, Burkey, tell us about current rugby union state of affairs. We've got some good. We've got a story about royalty to come up, which I look forward to. Also, your horse racing history back to one of BOSSY'S Melbourne Cups. However, rugby at the moment 2-2. The Wallabies on the tour, beating England, taking care of Wales, narrow ones to Scotland and Ireland. Are we in a better place before we went on that tour as opposed to right now?
Absolutely. I think everyone's talking about it. That's probably one of the biggest things.
You're getting a taxi cab. But everyone's talking rugby union at the moment, like it used to be. It's so good.
That's right. And that win against Ireland was, the win against England was something pretty special. They, with 78 minutes to go, they panned to the bench and they saw the bloke sort of, and they were just a bit chuffed, that kind of stuff. And you would nearly close out that game. And
it's England as well.
It's England as well. It's so good, isn't it? And there's nothing like them, that Twickenham crowd being quiet. It's rugby's England's game, isn't it? That's what it is. And to sneak that try at the end there with little, Max Jorgensen running and scoring the try. Thanks for coming. They then play Wales. They won, but they won in a way that we hadn't seen for a while. Like there was 50-25 something. Normally it would have been a 32-25, but they actually put them to the sword. They actually sort of, they went hard and they finished this team off. The disappointing game was Scotland, and they fell off about 30 tackles, and you just think, come on, boys, like this is a chance too. And that last game against Ireland, albeit they lost, they showed some really good signs. And it's interesting because one of the coaches, the forwards coaches, said we had to go back to come forward, and it was like, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, we had to go back and teach a bit rather than just expect the knowledge to be at that level. And I thought that was really interesting because. When you get selected, you're expected to know and you're expected to understand what your role is and you're expected to be perfect if that's the case. Yeah. But you've also got to get taught at the same time. So coaching is still about understanding and getting players better, even though at that top level. So I think that's what we've seen from Joe Smith and his understudies to be able to just give these guys a bit of a go. It helps when you're playing well as well, and you've got the confidence to play well. And I think. That was one of the different ones. That culture shift and confidence was pretty cool.
But when you go and play, say, Scotland or England, like they play different game, they completely different set of rules. Basically, you're starting from scratch because they play a different standard of football, so you've got to adapt to them.
Well, they when you go over there, we play well. This is the old sort of David Campese thing. We're supposed to throw the ball around, and he's blowing up because we're mauling a bit more. But you got to be physical because these blokes are. These blokes are 6'8", 125 kilos. Like it's solid. One of the great things is when you run out in Australia, you run out opposition first, home team second. In Europe, they knock on the door and you're allowed 1 minute, and so literally both teams come out together and you stand there, and it's literally like it's the French are going nuts. You can smell the liniment, you can hear the steel studs on the concrete type thing, and you stand there and you just think to yourself. How big are these blokes? And you don't want to look them directly in the eye, but you creak your neck and sort of go, holy shit, like there's a big human, So then I distinctly remember playing a game in 2000 when I came back for an injury, and I hadn't played for about 11 weeks. And it'd be like you not being on a horse for 11 weeks. Like you get back onto it, and the sounds and the speed and the energy. Yep. And I remember the kickoff came my way. And I went, my ball. And Matt Cobain went, my ball. So the overcall, he takes it. And he caught it and he ran up. and the hit was like nothing I've ever heard before. It was just like whack. Yeah. And I cleaned out and I waited, and he got up, and I said, mate, are you okay? And he goes, yeah. I said, why is that? And he goes, that's the biggest hit I've ever heard in my life. Like it was unbelievable. He went, yeah, no, I'm fine. And I sat there with like these big eyes thinking, what have I missed for this period of time? It was so the moments in time can be put in sort of different areas, but certainly when you play in the UK and Europe, it's a different footy. So you've got to adapt. You've got to be big and strong and understand. Wilkinson with his kicking, they can destroy you with their kicking. So everyone's running the ball a bit more these days, which sort of helps for defence and your understanding. But it's such a great place to play, and to win at Twickenham, outstanding. To win in Cardiff, outstanding. And they just missed that Irish game, which would have been fantastic.
Joe Swayali'i is in now from rugby league to rugby union. Firstly, what do you think of him? And secondly, did you ever have the chance, because you were such a good athlete, you broke all the athletics records at Joey's that probably still stand, do they? I'm not sure.Maybe Joey he went to King's.
That's a research game, mate.
Yeah. But did you ever get the chance to go the other way and go to league?
Yeah, so from Joey to start with, I don't know if you ever met him. Like he is genuinely a massive human being. Like he's 6'4". Like I met him down at Manly one day, and the kids were playing footy, and I stood there and I stood on my tippy toes just to sort of feel relevant again. You know what I mean? Yeah. And what he showed, and I've done a few bits and pieces with him, and I sent him a text and said, mate, just do the simple things really well. Don't overplay your hand. Don't try and get up with a hype. Whether or not he took that on board or what, but he got involved. It's interesting, that Ireland game, he only had like 15, 20 metres of running, of metres gained. So they played behind him and around him, whereas England, they just said, right, have a crack. He'll be great, and he'll get better and understand. It's interesting, I got asked about him the other day as well, and they said, for a rugby league bloke, he did really well playing rugby union. I said, no, he was a rugby union bloke playing rugby league, so his skill was playing rugby union, and he'll be a massive threat come Lions next year, and also Waratahs. For me, it was, I mean, it was back in the day, wasn't it? We came out of our Australian schoolboys. I'll never forget it. We came out of our Australian schoolboys, and my old man nearly signed me up with Canterbury. So Peter Moore, they went to dinner with Peter Moore and his daughter and Chris Anderson, and they were literally about to sign me up. And Mum tells a story, and Mum's name's Maureen, Dad's Bob, and at the end of it, he said, Mum goes, Bob, does the boy want to even play rugby league? And Dad's just going, be quiet. Like, this is Peter Moore. Like we're on the verge of. But I had Canterbury. I had the Roosters. I had St George. I had Balmain. I had the Western Reds.
Oh, the Western Reds.
Western Reds. Yeah,
MG and the crew over there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, there's a good story about that one. Western Reds. We were on our way to South Africa at the time, and we stopped off in Perth to have a game. And we organised a meet with Peter Mulholland. Would that be right?
Coach.
Peter Mulholland, yeah. MG and some other bloke on the first floor of the hotel.
Some other bloke.
I can't remember who it was.
Shout out to some other bloke if you're watching.
I can't remember because the meeting was at 7 o'clock and I walked in at 6:59 and we'd been out all night. I was legless. And it was like, do you want to play? I was going, I don't know if I want to play. I just thought I'd just do the courtesy and meet you guys for the sake of meeting you. But that back in the day, that was how you earned your money. Like that was it.
Yeah.
I never wanted to play rugby league. I didn't think I would have been mature enough at the time. And it's great when you look at these Instagram clips, the old school, like just a flush tackle to the head was like, oh, what a tackle. That is outstanding.
That's it.
And you just go, that was my era. That would have been me.
Yeah.
Then we played, so I was at uni at the time. I was working at Liquorland. I was playing at Eastwood Rugby. I was Eastwood Rugby Development Officer and playing for New South Wales and Australia. And I thought, life's good. We were touring at the same time. And then we went professional. So it was like, hang on, I'm playing a hobby for a living and I'm getting paid for it now as well. So even if I didn't get paid, I reckon I still would have been playing rugby union. No?
Yeah. Ever have any offers, Bossy, to play another sport?
No. Not rugby union, not cricket, nothing else. No. I was pretty lucky.
Mate, you'd be suited for Formula One.
that's if they asked me if I would, because I used to love speed. Speed was my thing. Cars, I'm a car fanatic.
Yes.
I love speed. So my dream job would have been F1.
That's it.
So I'm good mate with Mickey Doohan, and now Jack's got into F1.
Yes,
just signed.
Yeah,
congratulations to him.
Yeah.
So I reckon he'll do really well. But yeah, I would have loved to.
Isn't it amazing, mate? If I can, buddy, isn't it amazing when, as a professional sports person at that level, and you talk about the pointy end of sport, like how many people have won a Melbourne Cup? Start with how many people won 3? How many people won a World Cup? And people go, man, I can do what you do. I remember walking to a pub one night, and because everyone's hammered after the game, right? We come in stone cold sober, and I'm trying to find my wife on the other side of the pub, and I walk past this bloke, and I've got my suit on, and this bloke goes, "You're that Matt Burke bloke," and they go, and you sort of stand a bit taller, and you go, "Yeah, mate, that's me." And he goes, "Not as big as I thought you'd be." Hang on. So they immediately think what they can do. But the great part about it, and you'd be the same, mate, you've been exposed to, people like yourselves, drivers, golfers and that kind of stuff. And you think, I go okay, and then you realise you're so far from it.
So far from it.
And even if you've got this element of skill that is a little bit transferable, it is so far from the truth. It's ridiculous. And to see someone do their stuff, it's like hands
basically
down
you just
praise.
stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. That's what you're chosen to do, and
That's
that you're
exactly
good at.
To Burkey's story there about walking through the pub and giving you a little,
I get
like backhand. What about sometimes when you come back to scale, Bossy, and things haven't turned out your way, be it luck or the horse wasn't good enough or whatever, and the experts over the fence are giving it to you. Did it happen often?
Oh, it does happen, It happened a lot. And I used to I was a real cheeky little bastard. I say, be careful, mate, I could be your landlord or something shit like that.
Actually, I heard a great story when I was living in the UK. I heard a great story about that pub scenario. Remember the old guy Paul Scholes played for Manchester United?
Yeah.
And the story goes that he's walked into a pub, and this punter's walked up to him with a pint and going, "Hey, Scholesy, I bet you wish you could do this." And we're like clog, just like necked it. And they reckon he pulled out a £50 note. And he goes, "Lighter." And she goes, "I bet you wish you could do this." That's a
That is a beauty.
What's that? Magnificent.
Yeah,
We've
good.
got the 50s, the red ones.
I guess, Bossy, you need to handle yourself with a bit of decorum and things like that. But some of those sprays, because they can have 8 cracks at you in a day. If you stuff up in an early race or something goes wrong in an earlier race, they can give it to you every time you come back to scale, all day long. And being on a racetrack sometimes, what I do know is that people don't get sober on a racetrack throughout the day. It goes the other way somewhat. So
I used to love it though. I used to feed off their energy. Like if they were giving it to me, I'd start giving it through at the start of the day, and then it just built through the whole day. And by the end of the day, you end up having a relationship with these people. You know what I mean? Because whether it be good or bad, you're having a bit of fun with them, a bit of banter.
Yeah. Meeting some people through your career. We always love these stories on Who's the Boss. You obviously met royalty because you go over to that spring tour, or whether it be a World Cup or not, and you get invited.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've had the opportunity. Well, we had the opportunity to meet the belated Queen about 4 or 5 times. You go to Buckingham Palace, and I can just imagine like going through the diary. Who have we got today? Like the Aussies, it's like put the good cutlery away. It's like here we go again. But it's a surreal moment because you drive into Buckingham Palace. You drop you off. You walk up the stairs, and there's like a function room that they go to, and it's quite large, and it's in the corner. They've got that's window dressed and the rest of it. And you sort of walk up and you have a look at the stuff that's in there, and you're looking at plates dated back to sort of I'm going to throw out inverted commas like 1066 type thing. It's like 1413, and you're just going, what is this joint? Like it is just ridiculously.
Museum.
Old. It's a museum, exactly right. And then when the Queen pops in, because they open the doors and about 7 or 8 corgis just fly straight in there, and you think, right, here she comes. And she walks around the corner and she's got the little handbag, in there, and you stand in a semicircle to start with, and you get introduced to the Queen, and you don't say anything back to the Queen. It's just like, yes, ma'am. And then behind her, so I say, was Prince Philip, and he walks past, and Ilse was the one introducing as the captain. And how often do you just call someone by their nickname? You know what I mean? And Dad said he was getting blokes' names wrong because he wouldn't. Like how often does anyone call me like Matthew Burke or something like that?
That's
and
right.
He's going. He walked past, and Joe Roff goes, "Who was that old bloke?" I said, "He's like 2IC, mate. Like what's going on?" But it was great. Then you split off into like groups of sort of 5 or 6, and she sort of dots around the room. and then says goodbye and then takes off. And depending on what you talk about, that small chat, depending on what you talk about, is the duration of time with her. So if you've got nothing to chat about, she'll just move on, say hello, and go on. So you know, over the years, I think an early Wallabies team bought her a horse and said, we'd like to present you with this. Here's at the stables, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, yeah. And so if you talk about horse racing, if you throw out she's a good horse and she'll go all day, she'll stay with you and just start chatting.
100%.
And then if you talk about Ascot and the rest of it, she hangs around for a longer period of time. So you get your kudos with the Queen. It's quite incredible. I mean, it is the most surreal moment. And Mum being English as well, she's always taught me about the kings and queens, that kind of stuff, and the respect that you need to do. You then roll on to 1999 when we won the World Cup. And you remember, that was our referendum year between the Republic and the monarchy. And so we had to go and vote at the Irish embassy. We were in Ireland at the time, at the Irish embassy. And Ealesy, God bless him, Ealesy was a very much pro-Republic, right? So he was like, the staunch voice, this, that and the other. Anyhow, so we won. We beat France in the final. And there's Queen Elizabeth II giving us our cup. And Eales's about to go get it type thing. And there's Horan like yelling out, "Hey, Lizzie, I voted for you. I voted for you." Knowing that Ealesy was like, this staunch sort of Republican type thing. So then you walk on and you as again, like it's moments in time. You remember the win, right? But you remember the small things outside it. And I remember getting the cup and I sort of lifted it, gave a kiss and lifted it and I handed it to Richard Harry. And Richard Harry said, the Queen said, "Congratulations." And he said, "No, congratulations to you too. You're still the boss of our country." And she sort of went, and the little aide went, "That's right." And then the next voice you hear was his dad, because he was the president of Australian Rugby. You go, "Move on, son." Just like, that's the moment in time. That's what you remember.
And she had a special handshake, you were telling me.
That was it. So the handshake. Yeah. So the interesting one, it's after games. It's the punters. After 8 races, they're hammered. After a full game, they're hammered. And they're on the corporates and that kind of stuff. We go upstairs and it was one of the great traditions of rugby. You have a beer with the opposition afterwards. They have some speeches. Captains, referee gets up there. And there's all the punters in there, and they're usually like, they're 3 sheets to the win. And you get up there, and all I want to do is go and see my wife who's on the other side there. And I was always that good bloke, like, "Burkey, bad luck this day. Oh, well done this one today, blah, blah, blah." You shake hands. Yeah, it was this. And you have a stock standard sort of spiel and that kind of stuff. And I thought, I've got to be able to do something here. So I worked on this, what was called the pull-through handshake, So it was like, "Burkey, congratulations, mate, well done, bad luck." And I'd shake hands, and then I'd do it. I'd just sort of pull them through a little bit and give them a tap on the back. So I've said good day, I've been polite, but I want to go that way. And I was telling Johnny Wilkinson one time in the UK, and I said, he goes, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. He said, "When we meet the Queen," I went, "Oh, hang on, mate, stop throwing names in the crowd." But she throws your hand away. She used to go 1, 2, and
do it
throw
there.
away.
Do it with Bossy
so
there.
it'd be
Like
like,
she goes,
you know that lingering handshake, and you don't know when to pull away. She'd go 1, 2, chuck. So you're gone. Like, I know my place in the world, and
Because
it's not
everyone-
shaking hands.
They just want to be with her as long as possible,
right,
right?
that's
Because
right.
but her time is very precious, right? So
absolutely.
she just go the throw.
1, 2, throw. 1, 2,
Well,
throw.
How
bang.
good.
There's a name for a horse scene punters out there. If you buy a share on a horse, maybe call it Hand Chucker Lizzie.
Hand
Chucker
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Straight
That's
back
it.
to this
Hand
story.
Chucker Lizzie.
Have you met the Queen or the guy in charge now?
The King, I met the King. Yeah, he
King
was.
Charles?
Yeah, King Charles. Obviously, he was such an engaging. When you speak to them, and you've got their time,
Yes.
and they're fully engaged in that conversation. And when you meet, obviously, the future king, you think, "Oh, he's on the clock a bit. He's going to move on." With him, it was like 10 minutes talking horses and his background and what he used to do. He wanted to ride as a young kid, and
So he likes his horse racing.
Oh,
Because there was that fear when the
he loves
Queen
it.
went.
Loves
that-
it. No, he loves it. He's right into it. So, but he was. I'm sitting there thinking, am I being with you too long?
Yeah.
And he was right there the whole time.
Yeah.
And really good.
So we met. I met his son, William, at he was doing his university up in St Andrews, and we combined my 2 passions, golf and rugby. So we're playing for the Barbarians one year, and we're staying on the Old Course Hotel on the 17th,
wow.
above the atrium where you have breakfast in the morning. There was about 50 Titleists on the roof when people were trying to cut the corner, that kind of stuff. And they said, "Listen, there's a chance to meet William at training today." And so as we were walking over, they said, "Look, not today. There's too much press around. He'll come to the game." And we met him in the change room. I got a photo with him, that kind of stuff. we said, we'll see you afterwards, mate. He said, yeah, we'll see you up in St Andrews. And so we had a court session in the change room. We had beers on the bus from Edinburgh to St Andrews. And then we had another court session back in the hotel. So we were flying. And it was myself and Nathan Gray were the two Aussies in amongst this Barbarians. So the Barbarians is an invitation team. And so from England on, Scotland, Wales, and we were playing Scotland at the time, South Africa, France, I think there was a couple of Argentinian boys in there. And so the universal language is playing rugby, you know, and beer. And so we get to this pub, and I walk back with 2 rum and cokes. And I thought, this is for Grazy. I could see Grazy there, but then I could just see Will just off to my right. I thought, if there's ever a chance to talk to the future king, it's got to be right now, isn't it? And I walked over and I said, Will, I said, this one's for you, mate. I handed him his rum and coke. I said, now, in Australia, we get rid of the speed humps and we smash it down. And so I'm doing this one.
Ice out.
Ice out. And it's going all over. And I've gone like, oh, God, I'm chugging it down. I finished. I went, so how are you, mate? Like, you know, just like a conversation. And he goes, yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm doing this, that, and the other with study, blah, blah. And I had this sort of out-of-body experience, and I saw what I looked like. My shirt was ripped open, my tie was tied around my head, and my jacket was tied around my waist. And I'm sort of having this conversation. And I said to him at the end, I said, mate, you know, you're going to Sandhurst next year, aren't you? You know, their military college. And I reckon he's practiced this line. And he goes, yeah, you know, one day I'm going to be Commander-in-Chief of the British Empire, so I suppose I should. And I thought, oh, God, say, come on, think. I said, when's the last time you won a World Cup? And I just walked off. I was like, seriously, left him standing. Drop the mic. So the great thing about it, though, so we're training back in Newcastle. I was playing in Newcastle in the UK, and our PA comes out and she goes, Matt, Bill wants your number. I went, who's Bill? And he said, William's security guard. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. So he left this message, and the message was priceless. And he goes, hi Matt, it's William Wales here. I said, I don't want to be intrusive at all, but we did meet a couple of months ago, and we're talking about we were talking about sevens. He was playing like a collegiate sevens, and he basically wanted me to play. But I'm thinking there, who the fuck's William Wales? Because he's the House of Windsor, isn't he? I always thought it was William Windsor. You know, it was like William Wales. Anyhow, so we get home, my wife and I are replaying this phone, and was like, yeah, that's got to be him. It's got to be him. So I called him up, and he goes, mate, I know you're a bit sort of, you know, stung that night. He said, do you remember? I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, we've got this game coming up, and it was the last game of the year, and we're playing London Irish. We had to win to get into Europe for next year, and I couldn't go. And he said, oh, that's no good. Turns out all the photos are in like Hello magazine or whatever it was. You know, there he was playing footy. And I asked my coach at the time, and I said, you know, I should be playing with a future king. And it was Rob Andrew. And he goes, oh, seriously? He said, mate, you should have told me. I would have let you go. I went, really? And he went, no chance. What about one of those moments, like one of those moments in time where you just go, you know,
imagine throw him into a gap and he scores a try. It'd be like memory forever.
I thought after the pub, and when he gets in, he'd remember that night and think you're a republic straight away. Australia after we want nothing to do with these people. You tie around your head. 2003, BOSSY'S first Melbourne Cup on the Diva. You got a good story because you're in the middle of a World Cup preparation. It's all serious. Eddie Jones is the coach, barking orders at everyone. But there was a youngster in the team that made it big.
Made it massive.
On the Melbourne Cup.
Made it massive. So the touring when we used to go used to always sort of somewhat culminate around Melbourne Cup time. So I was the young bloke. My first tour was 1993 as a sort of 20-year-old, and Timmy Horan was there, who I know you've had on the show, and he used to run the Calcutta. And so I was the young bloke, and it was like a tradition type thing, old bloke, young bloke, and we'd run the Calcutta. Then when Tim left, I then ran the Calcutta, and Morgan TURINUI'S, who loved his racing, was involved as well. So we used to run the Calcutta. Blokes are tight asses though, like, you know, like we used to bet $50 in just to get the kitty going. It used to be £50 over in the UK to get a good number for the boys. And they're going, oh no, can we make it like £20? I go, mate, you earn a fortune, like it's 50 quid.
Sorry, yeah.
And so Morgs used to always load up, and we do the Calcutta, and I got all the money. I had a shoebox full of money, and he goes, I said, mate, you owe me about 2.2, and he goes, yeah, no worries. So he comes up to the room, and I said, not that I want to count it, but can I count it? And I said, you're 100 short. He goes, oh my God, I'm sorry. And there was someone else in the room. I can't remember who else was in the room. And he goes, listen, I'll get to that 100 in a second. I'm just going down the road to put a bet on. And he goes, do you want to put a bet on? And I went, mate, I've got no money. I've got no cash. And he just looked at me and went, and looked down. And I went, oh, I had this moral thing. Like, there was another bloke in the room, and that was the kiddie money. So I couldn't take money out of the kiddie.
Yeah.
If
Can't
that
do
bloke wasn't in the room,
Yeah.
I
If you were the younger
was out of
one,
the
you
kitty.
would have.
I would have.
The younger man.
I would have just gone like, how much do you want?
Right.
So I said, look, mate, I can't do it. That's fine. So he went off and he took Nathan Gray, Chris Whitaker, and he said, mate, do you want to have a punt? And I went, no, that's okay. So he put his bets on, and we're watching the race. We're about to go out to train. We watch the race. You fly home. An outsider came second. I can't remember who it was. So in 2003, it was like an outsider.
Corey Brown on.
She's Archie?
She's
50 to 1,
yes,
thereabouts, 50 to 1.
Yeah.
And second favourite, third favourite after that. So it was first four. And Morgs is sort of, he's getting a bit restless. He's sort of sitting in his seat doing this one, And then the fourth place was owned by our video guy. And he was filthy because we only played first, second, third. We didn't play fourth. Yeah. And Morgs goes, who was that? And let's say it was called, it's called Lizzie Chuckaway handshake. And, he and Morgs goes, I think I've got this. And we said, what's that? He goes, I think I've got trifecta in first four. And we went, what? And there's Wendell going. There's Wendell going, oh, boy, mate, you're going to win about $7,000 here. It's going to be great for you.
$7,000.
And so we go to training, and Morgs is trying to calculate it in his head. And our manager stopped training, and he goes, Morgs, he goes, just a quick one, everyone. Morgs, we've got the numbers back. He said it was paying X amount of dollars. Morgs, you've won 95,000 in the first four.
Wow.
And 35 in the trifecta.
120.
And it was like, oh my God. So we used to have, if you did
Pounds
anything
or
wrong,
Australian?
no, it was Aussie.
Aussie, because they were here for the World Cup.
Here for the World Cup, up in Coffs Harbour. And so when we used to have, if you ever got in trouble, it was a $500 fine. We had internal fine.
Yes.
And we're going, mate, just throw 500 on the ground now, straight in front of Beaver's feet, and just go to the pub.
Run.
And just go. And he said, oh, I can't. Anyhow, so we walked back. We went to the, I think it was the Plantation Hotel. It was the only place that had the TAB.
That's a rough. That's a good joint.
And he walked in there and he goes, can I check a ticket, please? And she's going, oh, shit. She goes, you've won 35. And he goes, oh, can you check this one? She's going, you've won 95. But we're just there
That is gold.
So the week later, I we're playing Scotland in the quarterfinal. I didn't make the team, so I'm in my suit now. So I'm outside, I'm in my suit. So basically, straight away, we're going, like, we're going to go train, and we're getting flogged. And we're running these sort of what they call coat hangers. So
this is next day? Or?
This is. So we played.
Play the game next day, do it, or after the game?
It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it would have been the Saturday. Right. So the Saturday morning, and we're getting belted, And so we go goalpost 22 goalpost, and you got 30 seconds to make it. But the quicker you get there, the more recovery you have.
Yeah.
So we're doing
like a beep test kind of
correct.
thing.
We're doing 15 seconds.
Ooh.
So you then on the 30, you count it down, you're off again, and there's basically no stopping. And Morgs was a little bit slower than us, a little bit chubbier. Can you say that?
Yeah, you can. Fat.
And he was just getting sort of broken away from the pack. You know what I mean? Like, just so he's only getting 10 seconds recovery, and then 9. So we do this thing, and Eddie Jones goes, Morgan, you're going so slow. You're running like you're carrying $100,000 in your pocket. Like, run! You're like this screaming out there. So we then go in the afternoon. So the boys are preparing for the game, for the Scotland game, and so we go to the pub. We go down the tab, and Morgs goes, right, we're into it, and we go 4 horses race, 1, 3, 4, and 7, and we win the first race. It rolls into the second. We win the second. It rolls into the third, and we miss the third race. We're at the gym. And I said, mate, it was something like let's say like water bottle. And he goes, yeah, like water bottle cooler. And he goes, yeah, that's it. He said, mate, we're good to go. We're good to go for the 4th. And we've got the favourite. So everybody knew about it. And we're up for about 27, like all up, I think it was. And so it ran like a donkey. And I'm shattered. Like I'm thinking, like, I'm going to earn some money because my wife Kate's going, get on the Morgs. Like, get on, he'll win you some money. And then in the sort of, in that moment where you drop your hands in your head, Morgs is walking. I said, where are you going? He goes, mate, I've got to go to the tab. I've got to pick up I've got to collect. I mean, but we lost that. He goes, mate, when you were mucking around trying to work out how to do it, also I've done about 8 bets and I'm pulling out about 7 or 8 at the moment. I was like going, how good are you going? So, mate, you just get stung. It is one of the great things when you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never tell you about the losses.
Never tell you about the
No,
losses. No,
never.
exactly right.
But that's
No,
a lot of money back then. Like,
Mate, that was
that's huge.
That was huge.
So he celebrated by getting yelled at by Eddie Jones. How did you celebrate that first one? Was it a good one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a tough thing because we have to ride, like
after as well.
Yeah, you ride Thursday and then
Yes.
you got to keep your shit together. You keep your powder dry as it is. And then we went on a week with Tony Sandy because he was a Croatian, but big drinker, partier, and there's a big crew. And we'd just go to Port Lincoln for a week and just hammer ourselves.
Superb.
Yeah, it was the best part.
What's it feeling like going past the poster when you know you're going to win?
The last one?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter.
Well,
First,
that was the real one because, like the first two, the first one was like, thank God, got that one out of the way.
Gotcha.
The second one we beat Vinnie Rowe, which was a huge achievement.
Yes.
But the third one when I presented her and she broke clear and so I had 250 metres where I just knew I was home. Like
clear.
my whole world stopped. Everything just stopped, got slow. I could hear the call.
Yeah,
It
right.
was just an crazy moment.
Fantastic.
You know when you're in the moment, you just so like things are a blur, aren't they? That you hear the noise, but it's a muffled noise. You see people in the crowd, but all you do is it's just this blend of faces, But I had a moment where everything was so clear.
That's great.
Yeah, for about 20 seconds.
That's
Crazy.
Good. And great memories of it too, isn't it?
Oh, when you have a sense of history and an occasion, because you've been a bit of a history buff about the sport, going past and winning the third one, because no one had ever been there before. No horse had ever. We'll never see this. We may never see this again. Burke, I had a feeling. I felt like Hillary I'm the first one to put a flag in Everest. That's what I felt like.
Yeah, right.
Because no one's gone here before.
Sure.
In this sport. So crazy,
Is there chat? And this is what I want to know. Is there chat on the way around? Because there's incredible chat when you're playing footy, like the old Gregan 4 more years type thing.
Was he a chronic sledger,
Massive.
Gregan, or
Yeah,
just
massive.
chipped in at the right time?
No, right time, but just good. Just good at good at the referees as well. Mate, he pinged a ball in the referee's head one day because he was annoying him. Like he came around the corner. And if the 10 was at sort of 45 degrees and the referee was at 30, he just looked up and went straight into his head and went, mate, get out of the way. It's like, but I've got one.
We're not advocating violence against match officials here on Who's the Boss, but it's just an accident from George.
Is there chat when you're going around?
Heaps, just like us. Because we're that close. We can touch each other, obviously. And when you're in a pack, it's very quiet, especially when you're at the back, like you just say at Flemington, you're at the 1400 metre mark, and everyone's just chilled. It's so quiet. And I used to love going, especially if you're beside one and they're just locked in. Yeah, right. And I'm just so relaxed. I'd go across and say, what were you doing that last thing? Like, honestly, that was one of the worst rides I've ever seen. Or what are we
mid-race?
And they just look at you, off, whoa, stop it. Or, what are we doing tonight? Or, especially when you beside one who's really intense, and they just off, and they're like this, Because I was always...
Who was the best to give it back, though? Who was the best on your same page?
Corey Brown back in the day.
Yeah.
He was, because we were very close mates, and I'd come up beside him and say, gotcha, because we used to race each other a bit, and I could hear him coming, because I could hear his call, like his yell, and if I'll stop and he'd go, I'm gotcha, and then gotcha, you got nothing, you dog. We used to love getting it to each other. But he was always good, but there's a few of them that are quite funny.
It's amazing when you. I recall a game in South Africa, and we were getting pumped up in the high veld, Johannesburg, and it's tough. Like the air's tight in there, like there's nothing there. The ball flies a long way, and we were about 25-3, and we got 25-6, 25-9. I'm kicking some goals. And I've lined up a shot at goal, and it was a bit windy up there, and it fell off the tee. And in a penalty, you're allowed to ask the referee, "Sir, can I put it back on the tee?" When it's a conversion, you got because they can run, you got to quickly sort of hit a field goal type thing, which never really happens. And I said, "Sir, can I put it back on the tee?" It was a guy called Paddy O'Brien, a Kiwi guy, and he goes, "Yep." He said, "But you've got 15 seconds." And so I've lined it up, and in front of me, I got the South African front row going 15, 14, 15. And so literally rocked back, and it's one of those moments. It's like when you play golf, you hit that ball out of bounds, and you just put the next one down and go crack. So I had sort of kind of a mulligan. I didn't think about it, and I flushed this in. It was perfect. It was one of the best hits I've done. And at the end of the game, we get back, we're leading, and then South Africa score a try. And in the euphoria of scoring, there's a guy called Werner Grief. And he has about 4 minutes to kick this goal. And I'm yelling out to Paddy O'Brien going, "Paddy, call the game off, mate. Call the game off. Like it's over a minute. And so we're lining up, and 55,000 screaming South Africans. There's the only Aussies are the blokes on the sideline, basically, you know. And we then charge it down to try and, you know, like knock it down, and he ends up kicking the goal, and they win 32-31. And I ran up to Paddy, literally, I chested him up. I said, Paddy, I said, mate, that was mate. I said, you gave me 15 seconds. I said, you gave him 4 minutes to kick this goal, and there's no word of a lie. And he goes, Burkey, and he paused, and he just looked around, and he goes, I've got balls, but they're not that big.
What was the scariest place you ever played?
Oh, South Africa.
It was the scariest place.
Yeah. I mean, apart from, it's an incredible place, but at the same time, you got to be wary of yourself. I mean,
Are you talking about getting to the game?
Getting
and
to the games, getting to leaving, and if you win, people are angry, you know, like, and Australia touring teams haven't won a lot over there, but it's just
there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. Yeah, absolutely. It's just angry. I mean, they're aggressive in their nature. They're aggressive on the field. They just want to bully you. And they're aggressive on the sidelines as well. And that was sort of the footy at the time. Yeah, South Africa were just sort of big, strong, do what they want to do as well. And they won that game against New Zealand in the end there. But quite an incredible place. But that's one of the toughest places you've been to.
I had stories. I used to ride against a lot of South Africans when I was in Hong Kong and that. And a couple of boys would say obviously they'd leave their gated community and go and ride track work. They'd have a gun. They'd drive to track work with a gun in the car. Yeah. And if they got a flat tire, they never stopped. They'd slow down at a red light, but they'd never stop at a red light. Right. And I'm thinking, you know, as an Australian, think this is bull. And he said, mate, I'm serious. Yeah. Wow. You know, if you stop, you can carjack you and take everything you got.
It was a scary place. I mean, we were looked after, you know, when we're there, and it's one of the most incredible places you can go to as well. And as apart from you get back to that sort of rugby theme of that first question, people talking about rugby. It is an absolute religion over there. You know, they're world champs the last 2 years. I saw them win that final in Paris. They're so proud as that nation, but sort of, you know, so when you play them, it's always incredibly tough.
It's a bit like Hong Kong. I'm guessing, Bossy, with the big international meets on this week as we sit here right now, it's like it heats on because that crowd, and you see it with their betting patterns, the last 2 minutes, it almost doubles the pool because everyone's on all of a sudden, and you all eyes on you if you're on one of the good ones because you've got to get it right.
Pressure.
You notice that, like we'd be riding in Hong Kong, the last race would always be 2 or 3 minutes late. So the last horse, they say, has that thing lost his shoe? And you go, no. And they go, better go and check it's lost his shoe or something, whatever, because they'd wait for the $1 billion to tick over.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the turnover, because that's but anyway, they'd go that quick. And as soon as they got to a level, they say, no, put it in, it's in, it's right. Yeah, so
incredible.
Crazy.
Hey, Burkey, last one for you, mate.
Yes.
Just the state of Australian rugby going forward, it feels a lot more positive, the men's and women's side especially, but the men's side, British and Irish Lions around the corner, and then a World Cup. Are they building?
Yeah, it's pretty huge, isn't it? You know, if you take it back a step, you look at sort of Waratahs and what they're doing at the moment, new coach, and if you get on any of the socials, you look at the contact sessions they're doing at the moment. It is literally just bash and barge, and it's quite special. I know we've got to go soon, but I was telling someone the other day, they are doing that contact session. 1996, when we first started, we were doing boxing for 12 weeks. Yeah. And the last week we went to Burwood Police Boys and we're standing there waiting, and the bloke goes, you know, this is it. We're going to get in there today. And then come around the corner, just convertible M3, Campo. It's a roof off, and he goes, hey, Rory, what are we doing today? He goes, mate, today we're fighting each other. And he literally dropped the clutch. It took off. He was like, mate, come back. We want to have a crack.
Everyone wanted a crack at Campo.
Oh, it was spot on. Like it was. I mean, blokes running at you, 6'7" running at you, but when you have to stand up and do that one, that's a whole new world. So these blokes are working hard. They're working hard from a perspective of understanding how to play as well. And I think the biggest thing is for Australian rugby is that they've got to get their head around how big the Lions is going to be for next year. We didn't understand what it was 24 years ago when we won the series. We lost the first one, we won the next two, Melbourne and Sydney. And then you go back to that. Before that was 89 when the Campo throw over the shoulder to Greg Martin. Greg Martin wasn't ready for it. They scored the try. They lose the series. It's going to be massive. 40,000 people are going to come down. They're going to flood Australia, and it's being played all across the nation as well. it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge, and there's going to be a lot of people talking about it, which is great. So they need to continue the run through Super Rugby next year against the Kiwi teams. But I'm very much looking forward to the Lions coming down next year as well. It's going to be great.
Well, it's going to be good though, because I mean, they've as a group now, they collectively have a real opportunity to bring back union as it was.
Yeah, correct.
Like I'm saying, we'll be out paddling and catching waves, and people are actually talking about rugby union now. Playing golf, people are talking rugby union now, which I never heard for years, right? So as a group, they've got a responsibility now. They can actually bring it back to what it was.
Those blokes are still probably the ones drinking champagne and eating caviar at the same time at the golf course, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
If
They're my people.
They're my people.
Well, cab drivers as well, where you leave your trophies. They're talking about rugby union too. So,
true.
Burkey, really appreciate you dropping by on Who's
Pleasure,
the Boss
boys.
and
What a chat.
some of the
mate,
stories and the
what a
handshake.
chat.
Get the handshake right.
Yeah,
There you go. Matt Burke, thanks, mate.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, brother.
Bossy, I've learned some things about the royal family in the last 45 minutes. That was brilliant with Burke.
Get rid of the speed bumps. imagine spilling your rum on coats on him. Like, it's
the
unbelievable.
future king.
Yeah.
Sorry, pal.
Yeah. And he rings
Down
you back.
go.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Well, it goes to show that those people actually relate to normality as much as people sucking up to them.
Probably more than people actually think, right?
Stands out, absolutely. Now, the crew at International Premier Events have got some great stuff coming up. You can see the hat right here. Look them up. It's ipevents.com.au, and they're across everything, aren't they, Bossy? They'll be trackside for this particular event in a few months' time at Rosehill. Yeah,
they do a really good event at the Golden Slipper. I was part of it last year. It's a big room and it's a great atmosphere. Formula One, rugby. We'll do rugby league. Obviously the State of Origin, which is always huge. Doom and Cup up there, so they do many events, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
And they've got a few things in the pipeline for the British and Irish Lions tour as well, mid next year, which will be huge, as Burkey was saying.
Hand up for
that. Hand up for that.
I love a junket.
We'll try and find you a Wallabies jersey somewhere.
Oh, mate, one that fits.
One that fits. So check them out, ipevents.com.au. Buy your corporate tickets with IPE, and we'll hopefully see you next year. This is the crew right here. So thank you for their continued support of Who's the Boss. Now, Bossy, this weekend racing, there's some Group 1 stuff in Australia. There's the Northerly Stakes over there in WA. One of the great named horses going around. Mark Zara's on for Chris Waller. Democracy Manifest.
I love that name.
So Darren Flindell, when it's been running in Sydney, has always given it the succulent Chinese meal.
That's right.
It all pertains to that famous video of that guy getting arrested who passed away this year up in Brisbane all those years ago.
If you get the chance, go and watch that bit of footage. It's hilarious, right?
I see you know your judo. But the horse is actually a talented animal as well. It's got a chance in what is not the highest of grade Group 1s that we run in Australia. But
it's a Clayton's Group 1. Let's put it where it is. It's a Clayton's Group 1. But he's drawn 4. Mark's going to probably, as he does, he'll give it a great ride. And then he jets off to Hong Kong.
So that's the big day on Sunday that we're going to have a little look at now. We've got Ballarat Cup as well this weekend, so check that out. Beautiful track at Ballarat, always good racing. But Hong Kong, 4 Group 1s. So you got the sprint, you got the mile, the cup, and the Vars.
Correct.
So I think Antino from Australia is in the
Going
mile,
over the mile.
and without a fight in the Vars over
2400.
Correct. What's the better chance there out of those two, would you say?
Well, Antino's in career best form. If he can take his form, which he's previously got over there, he's going to run a hell of a race. But the mile race tends to be very, very strong because the Japanese turn up, the Germans, the French, and they've got some good milers over there. So it's no easy pushover. Without a fight, looks like he's shown that he's back to his best form with his last run after an injury-plagued career. If he brings his best, he can win and hold the flag up for Australia. Yeah,
so he's in the Vars. So Sam Freedman over there. I'm not sure if Anthony's over there. Anthony likes to stay at home, doesn't he, and watch on the TV.
Haven't they handled that horse really well?
Yeah.
Like he had a long time off. They brought him back for one cameo run at the end of the, in the Old McKinnon.
Yeah, the Champion Stakes.
And he ran a blinder, and then they set their sights because you can't leave these animals out in the paddock for too long. He's already been out for a long with injuries. If you leave him out there, they start to lose it. So they're going to put him on a plane and send him over to Hong Kong. I feel it's a great move.
Yeah, what's that day like? International Day at Hong Kong.
It's incredible. Yeah. If you get the chance, go. It's a lot of Aussies are there, so you don't feel out of place. It's a melting pot for everyone because they just love going over there for that one week.
Yeah, cutthroat over there though, racing. You spent some time.
Yeah, I lived there for a few years. I mean, I wouldn't say it's cutthroat. It's just the same as here. You know, it's the best of the best, and that's what you like to put yourself in. That you'd love to be in that pool, testing yourself against, you know, the great riders from France. They come from South Africa, England. Obviously, the best generally are the Aussies, as we know at the moment. We've got Huey Bowman over there. Zach's killed it for the last years, and now J-Mac's over there. He rode 3 winners last night, J-Mac, at their international meeting. So he's killing it.
So that was the midweek as we sit here right now. They ran a meeting at Happy Valley, but he's got Romantic Warrior.
Yes.
So by the way, are we claiming J-Mac now? He's Kiwi, but he's Australian because he's had all this success here. We're claiming him like a Russell Crowe type crowded house type situation.
There was never any question.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, there's never any question.
Waller's an Australian
he's done his best work
well.
here, so that's it. So Romantic Warrior, I spoke to J-Mac only a couple of days ago, or yesterday actually. He said he's a weapon at the moment, better than he's ever been in his life.
Wow.
So he said they're going to have to be unbelievable to beat him, which says he should win.
Yeah.
And then they're going to talk about taking him over to Riyadh, over to Saudi, for the Saudi World Cup, which is $20 million US.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
The Americans go there. It's a great race. I rode at that meeting, my last meeting actually. I rode it.
It's on dirt, isn't it?
It's on the dirt, but it's a really good dirt surface. So I said to J-Mac, if there's ever a horse a turf horse, he'll handle that. So they'll take him over there. They're looking at taking him over there for the World Cup. Oh, not the World Cup, the Saudi Cup.
The Rich Cup. The load yourself up cup if you win it cup.
Them boys.
Imagine drinking out of that cup. I'm talking about it with Burkey
imagine
there.
the check comes through. Don't worry about drinking out of the cup.
On that
$20
note,
million US. Woo! Go a long way on a bus.
Can't top that now, Bossy. We're going to leave it right there. Yeah. Don't forget to check us out on socials, all over socials, at Who's the Boss Pod. Had some fun today, mate, and looking forward to next week. We've got a good guest lined up next week as well.
We've had a ball, mate. This is the best fun. We're having a lot of fun. I love this.
Good stuff. Good luck with the tips as well this weekend. Hope you double up after overpass. Glenn Boss, I'm Adam Peacock. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching another episode of Who's the Boss. If you like our content, hit the like button somewhere down here.
And if you want to subscribe, right here.